My name's Tahara Ezrahti, and I am a professional clairvoyant with Applied Intuition, and I also am doing the Heart of Healing podcast. And today I'm joined with Corinne Cevaer-Corey. I hope I said that right. She's a friend and an astrologer, and she has been kind enough to go through the astrology transits for the year, and she has some kind of news about how we can use astrology and what to look forward to, and even looking back a little bit in the past of kind of how we got here. And so I'm going to have her introduce herself, and then we'll get started talking about astrology and clairvoyant readings and how the two maybe kind of interact sometimes and what we can look forward to in 2023. Oh, and it's January 31st, 2023, as we're recording this. So Corinne, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in astrology and the kind of astrology that you do.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me on. And this is very exciting. So yes, I became interested in everything esoteric, the mystical, the esoteric, all the different healing modalities and all of that as a teenager. And I was reading French because I'm a French-born person, but reading all these novels that had like a spiritual bias to them, some explorers that were in the Far East and Tibet and so on, and really thoroughly enjoying all the concepts, the spiritual concepts. And I was so very young, but I had to pursue a traditional education because, I came from a normal conservative family and traditional family. And so that stuff wasn't to be, studied, and it wasn't, it could be studied, but I couldn't have become a professional in that field. So I pursued a normal education, and at age 19 came to America, to the United States, to the West Coast, and did my undergraduate in international policy studies, and then my graduate studies, I got an MBA in international management, and then worked 3 years in finance in Chicago and New York, to finally give up and reinvent myself, realizing that I really, didn't like finance, the field that I was in, and just studied astrology. I was very blessed at the time. We were, my to-be husband, who's my husband now, we were in New York City, and there were so many brilliant astrologers there. There still are. And I just embarked on this serious education and received my degree from the NCGR, which is the National Council for Geocosmic Research, my degree in counseling astrology.
I don't know that people even realize that you can get a degree in counseling astrology.
Yeah. And so
how is counseling astrology different than other astrology?
Well, it was people-centered, to help people truly better understand who they are, their inner dynamics, personality dynamics, their potential talents, their ingrained fears and doubts, and the different archetypes that are seen in the chart can indicate what kind of themes these people are channeling, vehicling, and very often these themes are coming down the family tree. And so, for example, that particular person would have an abandonment issue, and another person would have an issue with violence, and there are all these different archetypes that you can actually see in the Greek mythology. And they are to be seen in the natal chart. And so the counseling astrologer is here to guide the persons, the people, to have a better awareness of who they are and how to best navigate their life in that moment when they come to see the astrologer. based on the cosmic influences of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's like giving, telling the person about the weather, and if it's going to be hot or cold, you're going to dress accordingly.
Right.
It's going to be raining, and
right.
you've got errands to run, but there's nothing pressing. You might just decide to go the next day, or
right.
So basically, astrology, the way I practice it is for the purpose of empowering the person, of giving the power back to that person, not to take the power away from that person. So that's why we were talking earlier about me not really being interested in predictive astrology, because
right.
I don't think that helps the people whatsoever. It puts a band-aid on fear, but it's temporary. It's good for business because people come back, they need that fix, right? But it's not good for that personal growth and evolution of the client. So so therefore, so it's an image I like to use is, let's say the person comes and says, hey, I just bought a sailboat and I'm gonna go around the world. And the equivalent would be, I'm the GPS, right? I would tell them, okay, well, avoid these countries, avoid those seasons in these areas. That route might lead you to those experiences. This route might lead you to those experiences. The person at the end, they make their own decision, how to go from A to B. I don't tell them how to navigate from A to B. They make those choices, but they have a more educated,
you
view.
give them a little map about what they might and how things might go depending on what route they take and the timing that's good for certain things and not so good for other things. So yeah, we were talking about earlier that neither one of us do fortune telling, because I'll have people come to me as a clairvoyant, oh, tell me if I'm going to find love, or tell me if I'm going to be rich. And those questions, I always turn it back to the person and say, will you tell me what's going on with your relationships? And I can tell you, some suggestions of things that might help, or you're trying to manifest a certain kind of relationship, what you can do to better yourself, to be the person you want to be in a relationship. But I can't just out of nowhere some prediction about whether you're going to find love or money or any of that. So it's interesting. We have kind of different methods that we use, but we're both more kind of guiding and helping the person connect with their own wisdom and their own information, and just trying to give them a little bit of a perspective, I think, more than anything. And it empowers the person instead of them giving their power to the practitioner of, I just don't know, and you tell me what to do, and I'm just going to go listen to what you say. I think that's really dangerous,
Yeah, it's about validation, right?
Yeah.
Like the people, we are not going to tell them anything they don't already know.
Right.
But it might still be buried a bit in the unconscious. Yeah. And so the moment you put words to their feelings and their sensations and their intuitions, then they feel like, oh, wow, yeah, confident. Right. It brings a sense of safety and security and validation. And so it encourages the people to just act on their intuition as well. Mm-hmm. It gives them courage to face whatever they're facing, knowing that what they're going through is totally normal considering the influences that we see, in their life. So it's empowering in that sense. Right. Yeah.
I've done a number of readings for people going through their first Saturn return. So, people in their late 20s, 27, 28, 29, 30. Yeah. And it's such a dramatic transit for many people that it really shows up in the readings. And I feel blessed to be able to encourage them. Like, I know it's hard, but it's actually supposed to be hard because you're at this precipice of really becoming an adult, stepping into your power. Just keep going. There's nothing wrong that it's hard. It's just the way it is right now. And you'll get through it. And it'll take a couple years because it's a long transit, right? Like, don't expect anything to happen magically fast, but you will build strength from these challenges. And so
and so depending on how the chart is set up, you'll have these early bloomers or late bloomers. Mm-hmm. And so the early bloomers will have embarked onto a life path that perhaps needs correction, redirection at about the Saturn return, which is 29, 30 years old, 28, 29, 30 years old. And so these people will need help and guidance with understanding that everything that's falling apart is normal and good, and something better is coming. And then, of course, the late bloomers, they get on their path finally, you know,
right,
around the Saturn return.
right,
And then we have a second Saturn return around 58 years old.
Right. Yeah. That we're both in now.
Yes. I'm starting mine very soon.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so given that as a kind of that we are looking at the rest of 2023, but we're not doing it as a prediction. We're doing it as a kind of, I loved your GPS analogy.
Yeah, it's understanding the kind of energies that we're in, which would explain the chaos that humanity is, you know, in. And so just as an introduction, like overall picture, I just wanted to say that 2023 will shed the emphasis or put the light on the last two signs of the zodiac. So the generic wheel in the zodiac starts with Aries, and then, you know, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, so on, and then ends with Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, to then start again with Aries. So we are at the end of the zodiac. The emphasis of the planets, the outer planets, are really putting the spotlight on the last two signs of the zodiac, the Aquarius and Pisces. And so that means that we are entering an era, a new period in history, really, where it's really not about me and you, it's about all of us, you know, the unity of humanity, the global, the collective, you know, and that's Aquarius, humanitarian sign, altruistic sign, about, you know, embracing our individual differences within the group, but wanting to belong to groups, right? So that's all of us is the Aquarius energy, and ruled by Uranus. And then the Pisces energy is everything beyond this earth. It's like what is unseen, you know, the divine. And so, you know, if Aquarius would be our world, then Pisces is all of creation.
Okay.
You know, it's like the galactic, the cosmic, the beyond, you know, this planet and our, you know, small life here.
So that's interesting. I took an astrology class many years ago, must have been 30 years ago now. So I know a little bit about what you're describing. And my teacher introduced it as Aries, which is in kind of March. That's the spring equinox is when we enter into Aries. It was like the birth of a baby. And so it's like you start off as a newborn individual, right. And then as you start moving around, it's like this developmental progression. Yes. And so as you're saying, we're getting to the end of the zodiac, a completion cycle. We've kind of gone through all this development of our individuality and our adulthood. As a collective.
As humanity with a big H. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're kind of tying it up back into big humanity and the cosmos from an individual.
We're going from one big era to the next big era. And so we are very much in a very big transition phase of many, many years. And within, you know, the largest picture of many, many years of transition, those 5 years that we are in the middle of right now, that started with 2020 and go until 2025, are the pivoting years. Going from, you know, a society that was dominated by big industry, still is, but we're in the transition of, you know, where it's a death and rebirth moment that we're in. It's a time of deconstruction in order to rebuild better and new and better. It is a time of breakdowns for breakthroughs. You know, it is kind of like we are in the in the cocoon. We are the caterpillar. We have entered the cocoon. Those 5 years we're in the cocoon, and finally, after 2025, we'll be able to see the butterfly. But right now, we can't possibly foresee what's coming. The changes are going to be so huge, but it's very exciting. And at the same time, humanity is really going through growing pains.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to bring us back to what was the trigger at the beginning of the breakdown, the beginning of the end, and that was signaled symbolically, because astrology is a symbolic tool. And so early January 12th, 2020, we had a mega conjunction of Saturn and Pluto. And the last time that we had this conjunction of Saturn with Pluto, both of them being in the sign of Capricorn, was in 1518.
Wow.
Just to show the magnitude of the aura, of this particular conjunction that happened to be early January 2020, but it will carry us into this deep transformation and transmutation over many, many years, many decades. And so parallel to that, we had, so then next, I was mentioning that we're entering the age of Aquarius. We had Saturn that went from Capricorn, where it had conjuncted Pluto. In 2020, it went into Aquarius, and then it's been in Aquarius since December 2020 to March 2023. So in March 2023, the 23rd of March 2023, March 7th, 2023, Saturn will go into Pisces. March 23rd, 2023, Pluto will enter for the first time into Aquarius after having been in Capricorn for the last 20 years. Well, for the next 20 years, it'll be in Aquarius, and for the last 16 years, it was in Capricorn, and it entered Capricorn in 2008.
Wow. Okay, let me stop you there. Can I stop you there for a second? So for people who aren't familiar with the signs and the planets, so what is like Saturn and Capricorn? What's that gonna look like or feel like? What does that govern? And then also Pluto.
So basically what this is all saying is that we are in a major paradigm shift in consciousness, and the societal structures and systems are in the process of being completely reinvented.
So that's Saturn, correct?
And that's Saturn, Capricorn, that energy, but Pluto is death and rebirth. So this combination of both of them, being in Capricorn, that was heralding the beginning of the end of all the systems that have been built over the past hundreds of years, but in particular the past 50 years, and that led us to all Saturn and Capricorn are about top-down structures that exert control and domination over the people, and then with Pluto entering into the Aquarius era, there will be a power shift from top-down structures to horizontal.
Because that's the Aquarius is more
it's about giving the power back to the people.
Yeah, okay.
Right. And so that's but before this shift occurs, humanity has been a little bit much addicted to fear and addicted to suffering. And there were a lot of beliefs that led us to believe that to be normal, and that's part of being a human, but it isn't. And we now need to rise our consciousness out of that belief that we have to suffer for everything, and that we have, so much of at least in our Western world, so much of our society is led by fear, fear-based.
And that's Saturn. Saturn too is the fear.
Saturn, Capricorn, yeah. It's an energy that constricts.
Right.
It can consolidate and constrict, and Uranus and Aquarius are about opening and expansion and freedom. So the opposite. So for example, Saturn in Capricorn is centralization, control from big organizations, governments at all level, multinationals, big business. And they very much often use the safety argument, the security argument to control people, and to bully people into submitting to the way that they want us to conduct our lives, and the choices that they want us to make in this consumer society. And so this new era now is about us coming out of these belief systems that are so limiting, realizing that we are very powerful spiritual beings, and this victim mentality, we've got to step out of it. And we are co-creators, and we have so much, like basically these top-down structures, in order to dominate us, have led us to believe that we are not good enough. We can't make the right decisions by ourselves, Kind
of like we're children and we need these structures as parents.
It's like the father figure, because Saturn is the father figure.
Right. Tell us what to do.
Grandfather. And it's like, do as you're told,
right.
know. And so this is where we're coming from, and we're going to a period of time now where all of us, the common persons, are going to realize that, hey, there is more to us. We are all learning how to nurture our intuition, and more and more, connect with our intuition and listen to it. More and more of us are feeling that we are getting these signs from, our spiritual guides or our inner higher self, and honoring and respecting our own sensations in our bodies, right, and feelings in our emotions, and letting those guide us in our decision making, trusting that those decisions will lead us to wellness, as opposed to listening to some command that just simply doesn't sit right with us. And
so I'm just saying, so it sounds like March is going to be a big month where we're going to have these two major planets shifting.
March is a huge planet, but again, the stage has been set over the last few years. In 2020 with the Saturn Pluto in Capricorn, and then with Saturn moving into Aquarius, and then we had all of 2021 all the way up to there will be a close square in October. There was a close square, October 2022. So 21, 22, there was this square between Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus. So that was, again, this friction, this tension, creating crises in order to explode certain systems which no longer serve us well, and separately, independently, but the United States of America, is such a huge country in the fact that it's got such huge influence globally, that whatever happens here matters. And we as a nation have had a Pluto return, which means that Pluto goes around like in 246 to 248 years. So the last time around was when the nation was born.
Wow, that's significant.
This is our very first Pluto return. So it's like a huge moment of reinventing ourselves.
Wow.
And so that's when I was talking about October. The last station of this Pluto return is this October 2023. At the same time that there will be some eclipses that same month. So there's several months or several, like this whole year is full of very potent astrological events. And the United States as a nation also, its progressed moon has moved into Pisces December 5th of 2022, so just recently. And that's until December of 2024 will be with a progressed moon in Pisces. So the Piscean theme of, you know, honoring the spiritual, honoring the fact that there is more to us than what is seen. And, you know, perhaps opening people's minds to embracing more than just the concrete and the material, you know. Right. And Pisces is the sign of dreaming, so it's manifestation of dreams and concretizations of dreams, which that's also what Saturn entering Pisces March 7th of 2023 is also going to be about. And so we've had all this. You spoke about all the planets, you know, toward the end of last year, we had a lot of retrograde planets. So a lot of us felt like this stuck energy. Yeah. And then Mars went direct January 12th of 2023. But what's interesting is that huge, big conjunction of Saturn Pluto in Capricorn was January 12th, 2020, the same day. So, and Mars tends to be a trigger. So whenever it stations, it creates a trigger. If there's stuff going on that's really about to explode and Mars passes on it, boom, you know. So so all the planets, well, there was a station of Uranus, and then so all the planets have now been direct since January 22nd. Okay. All the way until April 20th, 2023. Everybody's going forward. And that is also a rare event, because normally you always have a few planets going forward, you know, in direct motion, and a few planets in retrograde motion. You always have a different, you know, mix. Right. And but everybody being forward, you know, is quite rare and exciting, because it means that everything can just finally move ahead, and we could just, you know, and the pace is we're probably going to feel like this pace is accelerating and things are, you know, occurring. And so between now, so you said January 22nd to April, what's the date that 20th of 2023? I believe it's Mercury that's going station retrograde. Oh, right. So this would be a good time, the next couple months here, to get projects moving, to kind of like launch things you were thinking about. Yeah, like full on, gather your courage and go. Do it. Okay. You know, it's very forward moving energy and fast. Okay. And so, okay, so these were, you know, then in April and May we have eclipses, and in October we have eclipses. Eclipses are kind of like a 6-week period where it feels like a full moon every day, you know, and they're generating a lot of energy. But there's also something, very unusual this year about the eclipses is, I'll just have a little bit of water. So normally eclipses are in 2 signs. You have, let's say, Taurus, Scorpio, and then, you know, you have the solar eclipse, which is a new moon in 1 sign, and then you'll have the opposition in 2 signs. Opposing, like the opposite, right? Opposing of the zodiac, signs of the zodiac, like Taurus opposite Scorpio, or Aries opposite Libra. But so for people who don't understand that, it's like Taurus is going to be in May, and then Scorpio is in November. It's going to be November. So it's like about 6 months apart. That's where you get the opposition going on. Right. Right. So now this year, 2023, they're covering all four elements, fire, water, air, earth. So the solar eclipse of April 20th is going to be in fire at 29 Aries, followed by the full moon eclipse, the lunar eclipse, May 5th at 15 Scorpio, and that's a water sign. And then in October, we have two eclipses. The solar eclipse is at October 14th at 21 Libra, that's air. And the lunar eclipse will be October 28th at 5 Taurus, and that's earth. So we have all four elements covered by the eclipses this year, which is also unique. And there are more other unique things.
How would you interpret that? What's that going to do? Having all
it's a
four
transition.
elements covered.
Transition.
Like it's going through each of these elements and just kind of transitioning that phase.
It's just showing the nature of this year being very eclectic, being very Aquarian, very Uranian. We do have Uranus in Taurus. Now, Uranus in Taurus has been there for a while, and Uranus in Taurus started in Taurus in 2018 and staying in Taurus until 2026. So it's interesting that it's going to end, and then in 2025, 2026, Uranus is transiting into Gemini. And at that point, going forward, we'll have Uranus in air, we'll have Pluto in air. Things are going to go very, very fast, but we're not there yet. We're here.
So what does Uranus and Taurus feel like?
So Uranus and Aquarius energy is non-linear. It's discontinuous. It's never steady. It's chaotic. It's not gradual. It's radical change. It's about radical change. It's sudden shock. And Taurus is ruled by Venus, and it's about big business. It's about money, wealth. It's about financial systems. It's about Mother Earth, Mother Nature, the food, farming, agriculture, the land. It's about our values and security. And so all of these themes, that's a lot of themes.
Right.
They're going to be very much disrupted this year because of so much, Pluto coming into Aquarius, and Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, being in Taurus. We've already seen, higher frequency and strength of solar flares and this, what they call coronal mass ejections. I don't know what they are, but basically activity on the sun, which does disrupt our electromagnetic fields. So we humans are feeling very pushed and prodded, from the invisible world, of frequencies and vibrations, which are very real. They're, coming in from the sun and from all this EMFs and all the, the technology that we've created. But also Taurus is Earth, Mother Earth. Right. And so with Uranus in Taurus, we could see disruptions to do with, earthquake, movement of tectonic plates. Yeah. Volcanoes, geysers. So Uranus rules electricity and all the wireless everything, the internet. It's the future planet that pushes us into the future. It's everything that's got to do with waves and frequencies, and so that's why it's also about television. It's about airplanes. It's about aviation. It's about space travel,
technology. So the other thing that flashed in my head when you were describing Uranus and Taurus is there's been a lot of fires at food processing plants, creating disruptions in the food supply. So that's a very, Taurus is about food and stability and sustenance, and then
Taurus is about stability, and then Uranus comes and disrupts everything. Because the systems in place and how the food is produced and, mass production and etc. It's all a system that is meant to collapse in order to make way for perhaps better farming, allowing more natural ways of basically where we may go backwards in certain ways for like regenerative farming is a new term, but they're doing nothing new really. Right. This is how our ancestors were, growing food. So, of course, more people being mindful of choosing organic produce and fresh. But if these are not available, then, industry is going to have to follow, the consumer's wishes and needs. And the consumer, as they're realizing, as the people, the masses realize that, you are what you eat and become more and more conscious of that it matters, then, the ones that are producing the goods will have to adjust. And sometimes it may occur in very violent ways, very sudden ways, shocking ways, and those are the properties that are associated with this archetype Uranus. And again, this is all in the symbolic world, right? Right.
And so Uranus is in Taurus until when?
Until 2026. Well, 2025, 2026. See, and I'm going to talk about Pluto going into Aquarius because it just doesn't happen, boom, and it's over.
Right.
Like, they go back and forth between the old sign and the new sign. So 2025, 2026 is when Uranus is going to transit from Taurus to Gemini.
Okay.
But for one last thing, and then I'll go to Pluto. On top of it all, we have Jupiter in Taurus, entering Taurus, the sign of Taurus, mid-May, May 16th, 2023, until May 2024. So for a year, from May to May 23 to 24, we're going to have Jupiter going into Taurus. So everything that Jupiter touches expands.
Right.
So it'll shed light on the excesses of all these frameworks and networks and businesses that are not functioning for the betterment of humanity, right? And so Jupiter will does introduce morality, ethics. And so we're going to be questioning a lot of things, which is a good thing. Right. But back to Pluto in going into Aquarius. So first, I want to go back to a big conjunction that mattered. And that was at the end in December of, did I write it down? And if I didn't, yes, I did. Jupiter conjunct Saturn at 0 Aquarius. And that was December 21st, 2020. So we had that, that huge major conjunction, Saturn, Pluto in Capricorn at the beginning of the year 2020. And then we had the advent of the new age of Aquarius with this Saturn Jupiter conjunction at 0, at the beginning of the beginning degree of that sign, because each sign goes from 0 to 30 or to 29. And so at the end of 2020, we had this advent of the new age into Aquarius. And
because Saturn and Jupiter were both at 0 degrees of Aquarius, is that what kicked that off?
That's right. Okay. That's right.
And that's right on the solstice too.
That was on the solstice. It was a big event, like a big astrological event. And so on this, I want to bring out this quote from a French humanist, French Renaissance humanist called François Rabelais. And he died in 1553. And at the time, Pluto was in Aquarius. And he had said in French, and I'll translate, "Science sans conscience n'est que ruine de l'âme." And that means science without conscience ruins the soul.
Wow.
Science without conscience ruins the soul. And he had said that way back, last time around when Pluto was in Aquarius. So I actually want to tell you about Pluto going in and out of Aquarius, and then maybe give you some historical events that might shed light as to, like, hey, like what happened in the history when Pluto was in Aquarius last time around. So
when people do that, I know astrologers do that a lot. They'll look when was the last time that there was this configuration of planets and signs, because it gives you a flavor or a feeling of the energies that were out there then, and what
and then within the context of that time,
right? So you can kind of translate, like, okay, that type of weather,
how we could adapt it.
Okay,
today.
Great.
But so Pluto basically is gonna go, is gonna pass the 0 Aquarius degree 5 times.
Wow.
Between March 23rd, 2023, and its final entry into the sign of Aquarius, which will be December 24th. When is it? No, it's going to be November 20th, 2024. And so it's really activating this new earth energy very strongly, 5 times back and forth. So for this year, 2023, it enters Aquarius March 23rd, but goes back into Capricorn June 11th. So we only have Pluto we have a glimpse of Pluto in Aquarius, from the end of March till the beginning of June. And then it goes back into Capricorn, and then it re-enters the sign of Aquarius in January of 2024 until September, then goes back to Capricorn, and then finally moves into Aquarius November 20th of 2024 for good.
Okay.
For 20 years.
So we kind of get the sense of what Pluto in Capricorn has been doing. It's been breaking down governmental
all the structures,
business structures, educational structures. It's been breaking down all these structures. So what kind of archetypes can we look at with Pluto in Aquarius?
Yeah, so hold on, I've got some notes, because there's just so much, just so much. I'll talk about the Aquarius, but I wanted to give you an idea. Okay, well, while I'm there, in the historical context, Copernicus, who published the heliocentric theory and told the world, and got burnt, I think, for saying so, that, oh my goodness, he dared, question the scientific status quo of the time, leading to a paradigm shift. He died in 1543. Pluto was at 15 Aquarius. So Pluto in Aquarius is really about the great disruption of anything to do with technology, like huge technological advancements we are going to be seeing, accelerating all the more when Uranus goes into Gemini in 2025 and 6. But I wanted the breakdown of all the structures, but I had written it down, and here. So basically, Pluto in the final degrees of Capricorn, when it keeps on going back to Capricorn, and we are there now and still in Capricorn and going into Aquarius March 23rd, but then June 11th, we're going back into Capricorn, and then the rest of the year will be the last time that Pluto is going to be in Capricorn. So let's brace for, and accept and be happy and be excited if we see, big systems and big disruptions occurring, because they're for the benefit of our evolution as a people, as humanity. So basically, Pluto, it's like what needs to come out of the shadow, what needs to come out of the darkness into the light to be addressed, right? Because as long as it's under the rug, we're not going to evolve. We're not going to, so we're just, collectively and individually needing to let go of a lot of paradigms, and they're valid in every field, and in the health field, in education, culturally, racially, religion, I mean, you name what, the paradigms are going to change.
So for the last like 13 years or so, we've been in this process of structures breaking down and kind of paradigm shifts around Capricornian type institutions.
Right. So for example,
like
the monarchy, like the British monarchy is just in passing an example, right? It's like very present right now in the tabloids. The story of the evolution of the British monarchy lately with, Prince Harry and Meghan leaving Great Britain and coming to Canada and then to the United States, producing this Netflix series, and then him publishing this book, and the coronation, the Queen passing on, which is a whole era, is now behind us. And Prince Charles becoming king. The coronation, by the way, is going to happen May 6th. I just found out a few days ago, and I was like, oh no, it's an eclipse. May 5th is going to be the eclipse. And so I really don't think that they will try all they can to avoid crisis and make this event as seamless as possible and as joyous as possible. But it might be riddled with crisis. And it's for the good, because these types of ancient institutions, they all have an end. And by the way, when the French Revolution occurred, that was in 1789 in France, we had, the people stormed the Bastille, and the queen and the king and queen were beheaded, and the monarchy led to a republic, which we still have today. That was in 1789, and Pluto was at mid-Aquarius. So that's yet another, historical event that showed that the shift of power, because Pluto is power, control, money, big money. So it's the shift of power to the people. It's, moving away from top-down structures to, grassroots a movement.
So I just got that picture. So Pluto in Capricorn is about power in institutions, and then Pluto in Aquarius, because it's ruled by Uranus, is more about power in maybe communities and individuals, and maybe technology also.
Absolutely. Okay. Technology enabling all of this, enabling ordinary people to unite, to collaborate, to create new communities, which are going to be based on the heart. They will be heart-to-heart communities, as opposed to what has been, and what still is becoming completely heartless. Yeah. And so this advent of the Aquarian age is about bringing heart back, into all the structures and the systems that rule society. And it's about the people, the mentality, the consciousness of the people, the awareness of the people rising and realizing, hey, we don't need to give our power away. We can make those choices ourselves. We can make those decisions ourselves. And so that's what, the Aquarian age is about. And so
is there a downside to it though? Could you?
Yes, I was going to say the positive. Yeah. I was just about to say the positive Aquarius is love, compassion, empathy, intuitive self, telepathy, that we will be developing psychic abilities and sensitivities. It's the interconnectivity, of all of us, the people, better understanding that we are one, and it's not negative, but Uranus is about renegades also, pushing against the system, and visionaries, It's about communities and friendship and alliances. So Pluto, in dipping into Aquarius, could actually bring to the light secret hidden alliances that have been made, that have been compromising to the people, that have been made by higher authorities, that have been compromising to the wellness, the well-being of the people. So Uranus is and Aquarius is all about independence, need to think out of the box differently, which is great, because that's how we're going to break through, right? And create new models and the technological advancements are going to be through the roof. But it may come always in like waves, or in like sudden ways, because it's Uranus.
Right.
It's more like, things have to break in order for something new to come. So the shifts are sudden, it's swift, the turnarounds or the change of orientation are fast. But it is really about pushing out the old patterns and the limitations. And this year is 2023 is really about a lot of abrupt revelations will come to the mass, to the masses, most people will become aware. And those revelations will lead to change.
Now, do you think with the
technology, to
technology
rebuild, it's going to take years. It's not like all of a sudden we have the new Earth. No, but the waking up and to the realization that the systems, the way that they are just obsolete already. We need to move on to embrace new paradigms. And the negative, Aquarius can be very disconnected, the analytical left brain, hyper rationalism, because it's an air sign.
It's like AI, like an AI
nightmare. and the super negative of the negative
right,
is what we are seeing on display in China, which is digital technology permitting an authoritarian force to completely control and dominate and bully its people. Right. And so that's the negative. And Pluto in Aquarius will also reveal or bring out of the shadows all the negative aspects and the detrimental aspects of pushing too far. Right. And taking the heart, taking the human part of the human.
Right. Well, we had talked about there's this chat GPT that I think, and lots of people think, is going to completely change and revolutionize everything, including education, businesses. I mean, if you're an editor, you might be out of a job now because you can use this chat GPT to edit stuff. My son just wrote some term papers, and instead of having, his girlfriend or someone else help him proofread like he normally would, he just sent it to the chat GPT, and within seconds, it proofread and edited his paper and gave him good suggestions. So I just think it's going to completely revolutionize work, who does what kinds of work, school, but everything.
It's also going to revolutionize aspects that we couldn't have thought about. Like our son last night brought up the fact that Google might be even disrupted.
Right.
And the whole entire advertising model might be disrupted. I mean, things that are like layers upon layers of change and disruption and shocking revelations that are just pushing us out of our comfort zone over and over and over again. Right. But it is it's pushing us to raise our vibration, elevate our vibration to match the rising vibration of Mother Earth.
That's interesting.
Which, she as an entity in and of herself, Gaia, has been, rising in vibration, and a lot of us feel like time is speeding up, and it's kind of real. And, a lot of us have discomfort in our bodies left and right because it's too much and too fast, but it's normal. So we need to relax into it and adopt. Breath work is, a huge positive tool for living in today's world, because our breath is with us all the time, and we can take time to breathe when we're behind the wheel of the car, when we're peeling the vegetables, or even on a Zoom call.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
focus on breath and in being in the presence, in the present. That's a
grounding.
Pluto in Aquarius and all this Aquarian energy. That's air. That's breath.
Yeah. And I teach a lot of grounding too, that helps people manage their anxiety that can come with all this electrical kind of stimulating energy. It can make your body feel
too much
anxious and buzzy, like you're getting your circuits fried a little bit. And so learning how to ground helps to literally ground off that extra buzz and can help you feel calmer. You know what? Getting back to the Chat GPT just for a second, it's going to be really interesting where you're going to have all these people laid off of tech companies, but also other
white collar jobs.
Yeah. And so what are these smart, college educated, like oftentimes millennials or maybe even older Gen Zs, what are they going to do when they get laid off? Are they going to go live with their
release
parents?
The creative?
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Because the Pisces energy, remember at the beginning I said we're going into Aquarius and Pisces is all about creativity. It's about fluidity and creativity and being inspired. The old models in the old world, if I may say, we were talking about the word motivation. Motivation, but the new word is inspiration.
Interesting.
Allowing ourselves to be calm enough and still enough to receive these inspirations and then create amazing things.
Well, I think that's part of it. So you can have all these people with time on their hands without a structured job. And they always look at it like the negative side is they're going to go live in their parents' basement and spend all day playing video games. But the positive side is some of those people now are going to have all this time and this immense creative energy to create all kinds of things we can't even imagine.
However, they still need to make a living. And that's the question mark. Because when you are financially strapped, you cannot be creative. You're not still enough. You're not feeling secure and stable enough to be able to just go ahead and create. You've got to deal with like every day I've got to put food on the table issues and a roof over my head, so I think that parallel to that there will be shifts in other industries to obviously make all of this being able to continue.
And maybe communities too, because building communities is a way that people gain safety and structure. And so maybe some of these displaced people will end up forming, communities that are more land-based. And that's part of how we'll start getting kind of all this infusion of new ideas, new energy, new projects, because people, there's some people who are just going to hang out and waste their time and not do anything. But most people do want to participate, do want to contribute, do want to create. And so I think there's going to be this huge influx of creative, inspired actions taken by smart, fairly young, well-educated people who are getting off the hamster wheel of business. And so it's going to be amazing to watch. What do they do?
Yeah, true. And it's a mystery. I mean, we are really stepping into a new world where filled with more questions than we have answers at this moment, because we are in this transition period.
So we're about at an hour. So is there a few more things you want to kind of finish up?
Well, I mean, I could end on a very positive, which is that you know, the big summary is that 20 to 25 is about, they're like big reconstruction years. And already we're seeing all these parallel frameworks that have been birthed as of 2020 already. You know, other social media and other like networks of farmers, and in every field, you know, you networks of healthcare workers that, you know, are pro you know, then pro natural approaches to health, creating these networks and helping each other out. And then in 2026 and 27 and beyond, we will start seeing the fruition, you know, the payback, the payoff of all this chaotic contracting, you know, this difficult energy, challenging energy that we are living through right now. But then the great positive is we have this magnificent grand trine between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto that already started, you know, the three of them were getting close to the grand trine. We already had from July to November in 2022. And then in 2023, we have it from May 31st to the end of 2023. So let's say May, June. So from June to the end of the year. And then in 2024, we'll have it from late April to September, all the way to September 2029. This grand trine in a weaker version, and then it's going to get strongest in 2025 and 2026. So
okay,
it's
what planets are those again?
So Uranus will be in Gemini.
Okay.
Neptune in Aries, and Pluto in Aquarius, forming a grand trine. Well, that's not a grand trine. It's a trine and a two sextiles. So yeah, not a grand trine, but you know, Gemini and Aquarius are forming a trine, and then to the Aries, that's sextile.
Okay.
So it's basically a fluid, energetic, you know, they're basically talking to each other nicely.
And kind of like air and fire.
The archetypes are supporting each other, working with each other. There's fluidity. You know, the energy's moving, as opposed to these squares like Saturn square Uranus that we had 2021, 2022. You know, and these difficult conjunctions that we've had. Going forward, beyond 2025, we're going to see some. It's going to be, I don't know, because I can't predict, but it feels like a new golden age, you know, that's going to be mostly, you know, technologically driven, but all the current paradigms, including astrology, will be obsolete. Like we will discover new galactic truths, you know, and quantum physicists who think that they're on the edge, they will be like at the beginning of you know, the next huge discoveries. So we're in this difficult transition right now where all the systems and models and paradigms that we've been using in society to operate are breaking down, you know, one after the other, to make way for the new. Yeah.
So we should buckle our seatbelts on for the next couple years, but have faith that we're moving towards new opportunities, amazing things we can't even imagine yet, and that we just need to orient ourselves to take advantage in a positive way of these new opportunities as they come, and to not freak out when we see things breaking down. Right.
And then Saturn in Pisces for the next 3 years, you know, it just enters the sign May 7th of this year, 2023, and for 3 years it'll be in Pisces, and you know, helping us to concretize our dreams, you know, helping us with making manifest our creative self.
Yeah.
And
So that's a good point, because people get afraid of Saturn because it does rule fear and things like that, but it also creates structure. It helps you build
yes,
things. So it
yes,
can build your inspiration and build your dream, actually take it from being just an idea to something real. So all
yeah,
these
yeah,
structures that
yeah.
are breaking down, and we see the new little sprouts coming up, those little sprouts need Saturn to water them and care for them and help them grow into a big tree that actually
Saturn is actually the
produces.
foundation, the base.
Yeah.
On the negative, it's the walls that close in on us, but on the positive, it's the foundation that we
Right.
need
Right.
to stand on.
Right.
And Saturn is really a great planet that helps us get rid of what no longer serves us.
Yeah.
What, very often we all hang on, we just hang on because we're humans and we just don't like change, and
Right.
it's difficult, it's painful. But then we are having the Saturn experience, or the Pluto experience, or the Uranus experience, or the Neptune experience, and we're like, oh my gosh, we're feeling anxious, and doubt creeps in, and fear, of course, and but no, it's all for the better, and a very exciting new era full of discoveries that go beyond our imagination is coming forth. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing all your knowledge and all the work that you did to go through and look at all the transits and look at what was happening 500 years ago when there was the same kinds of conjunctions. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you again. And if you want to get a hold of Corinne, are you doing readings? Are you available?
Yes, I'm doing readings. Absolutely.
Okay.
So, people can go to my website, which is coreawakening.com.
Okay.
So CORAWAKENING, right? Awakening.
Yeah.
Awakening.
I'll put it in the show notes too. I'll put it below.
Core Awakening. And then my email is coreawakening@gmail.com.
Okay. Great.
Core Awakening. Yeah.
You can
so
go
it's
there.
Like, I created this word quite a few years ago in 2015 actually, and it was just like this core, like build your core, build your essence, or let your essence shine through, awaken your core,
Right.
And that's how also my name is Corinne.
Right.
And there's a lot of core, COR themes running through my life, which I actually put in on my website under the about me section. Yeah, I explained a little bit how this core and Corey, core awakening came about. Yeah.
Okay, well, if you want to learn more, you want to book a reading with Corinne, go to her website. I'll put the link in the show notes. I've had a reading with her. I would recommend it.
Thank you.
And if you want to learn more about what I do, my website is appliedintuition.org, and you can find out about upcoming clairvoyant classes, and also if you want to book a reading with me. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And everyone have a great day, and buckle your seatbelts up for the rest of this year, and looks like a couple years, into the future too. Okay, so thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.